We're starting off with Raw, which opened with Seth Rollins, who had two people to thank for his Crown Jewel performance, the first being Drew McIntyre for bringing out the best in him. The second person was Sami Zayn, who Rollins thanked for preventing Damian Priest's Money in the Bank cash-in, but that thank you was delivered to Zayn in person. For Sami's efforts in Riyadh, Rollins offered Sami a title shot, and while Zayn was hesitant at first, believing Seth isn't at 100%, Rollins reminded him that veterans like them never are. We have to question the fashion choices of Rollins, who donned the same outfit he wore at Crown Jewel, a fashion faux pas if there ever was one. We also have to question the timing of the pre-match segments, as after Sami made his entrance, he had to wait 10 minutes through a commercial break and video package before Rollins came out. The match was Rollins' 7th title defense, but his first on TV since June, and was the first televised singles match between himself and Zayn in over 4 years. Despite this gap since their last match, the two delivered a great performance worthy of its "This is awesome" chants, and it was Seth who got the win after turning a Boston Crab into a flash pin. The slimiest of wins showed Rollins as a smart champion, but also showed that Zayn can hang with the World Heavyweight Champion, and at points nearly had the match won. Prior to the finish, Zayn hit a Blue Thunder Bomb and an Exploder in succession, but it wasn't enough to put down the champ, and post-match, both men were attacked by the Judgment Day. Jey Uso came out to assist, but the tide didn't turn until Cody Rhodes showed up to help, and Adam Pearce booked the Judgment Day versus Zayn, Uso, Rollins, and Rhodes match for War Games. With Zayn, Uso, Rhodes, and Rollins all having issue with the Judgment Day for months, this isn't a surprise, but should be an excellent match later this month. Last Sunday, the superstars of WWE traveled to Springfield, Mass for a WWE live event, and the show saw Becky Lynch earn a victory over Natalya. After the match, though, Lynch was seen conversing with a ringside medic and was seen walking with a slight limp, as it appears the match left the man worse for wear. This post-match interaction has raised concerns among both management and fans, and it's been reported that Lynch was pulled from Raw's Battle Royal due to this injury. On TV, Lynch was making her entrance and was ready for the Battle Royal before she was attacked by Xia Li, and this was the on-screen reason why Lynch was pulled from the match. Li would face consequences of her own, as ringside, Raw GM Adam Pearce banished her from the contest. This was quite effective, as Lynch and Li can feud now, giving the Chinese star a high-profile storyline, but that'll only happen once Lynch is cleared to wrestle after this recent setback. We mentioned earlier that Lynch was not able to compete during the Battle Royal, but the man had some knockout blows to give when she was interviewed backstage. During the interview, Lynch was interrupted by Nia Jax, who said that she'll win the Battle Royal and that it'll be the happiest she's been since she broke Lynch's face. The incident in question took place in late 2018, but would be a blessing in disguise, as the image of the bloodied Lynch would cement her status as a badass and give her a ton of fan support. In the interview, Lynch fired back by reminding Nia that after the incident, she went on to headline WrestleMania, while Jax would get fired just a few years later. Whether WWE revisits a feud between these two, time will tell, but with Lynch on the shelf for the time being, Jax will have to make do with breaking the faces of other women on the roster. At WWE Crown Jewel, LA Knight was unable to take the undisputed WWE Universal Championship from Roman Reigns in the biggest match of Knight's career to date. Knight has come a long way from being seemingly destined to be a manager for some male models, but has he peaked in WWE? Some in the company believe so. Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated reported that there is a belief in WWE that Knight has reached the pinnacle of his popularity, and despite his impressive merch sales, WWE is looking to move on. With WWE moving on to other storylines, Barrasso said that Knights need to connect with crowds on a deeper level than just having catchphrases, but things aren't all bad for the megastar. While LA Knight's championship aspirations may face an obstacle, his popularity and talent are likely to keep him in the spotlight, ensuring that fans support him regardless of championship goal. If Knight can maintain this level of popularity, then he'll continue to captivate fans, even though he's not expected to remain in the main event scene. As we previously reported, there are no plans for Knight to win the Royal Rumble or challenge Reigns for the title at WrestleMania, as these calls have already been made and don't involve LA Knight. Next year's biggest show already has matches locked in, and while Knight may find himself on the card in Philly, his time in the main event has seemingly come to an end. According to some, CM Punk's return to WWE is an inevitability and could happen as soon as Survivor Series War Games in Chicago later this month. Those people have pointed to lines in WWE promos alluding to Punk as surefire signs of his return, but what does Punk himself have to say about all of this? Despite recent reports that he was scheduled to speak with board members of WWE, Fightful has learned that Punk has told those close to him that this is not accurate. According to Punk, there will be no board member meetings, nor will he return at Survivor Series, and he isn't the only one downplaying reports of a return. When Ringside News asked a WWE source who's higher up the corporate chain, they said, "There is no call with Punk and board members," and called it the fakest news in a world full of fake news. The source added that any reports like that and anyone saying anything like it is 100% clickbait, as it appears the two sides are not even close to reaching a deal. Despite this week's Raw had another reference to Punk, or at least some believe that, as Michael Cole said that Seth Rollins is going to look into the eyes of Sami Zayn. Punk's theme song begins with the phrase, "Look in my eyes, what do you see?" But once again, this seems to be a case of fans making connections that aren't really there. It was at Crown Jewel that a CM Punk chant broke out among fans, and during the Akira Tozawa and Shinsuke Nakamura match on Raw, yet another chant broke out for the former world champion. A portion of his fans may want to see Punk return, but that just isn't going to be happening, at least not anytime soon, as Punk's next chapter in the ring, if there is one, will be outside WWE. Raw also saw The Miz become the #1 contender for the WWE Intercontinental Championship, but his big win did not come without controversy. In the closing moments, The Miz countered a tsunami attempt by Bronson Reed into a roll-up, while Ivar hit Ricochet with a moonsault, and both Miz and the Viking began their pinfalls simultaneously. The referee counted both falls at the same time, and while Ricochet kicked out, Reed took the pin, and after some confusion, the A-lister was declared the winner. The match showcased 4 highly talented individuals, and the crowd seemed the most excited whenever Ivar and Ricochet locked horns, a potential feud WWE would be wise to remember. Even though Ricochet was the lightest man in the match, Ivar lifting him from a sitting position on the mat into a suplex was impressive, as was the Hurricane Rana Ricochet used to take him down right after. Nevertheless, it'll be The Miz who next challenges Gunther, and this feud comes at an interesting time for wrestling's most dominant Austrian. After his 2023 Men's Royal Rumble match performance, many see Gunther as a favorite in next year's Rumble match, and this feud could be WWE's efforts to tide Gunther over before the Rumble. Perhaps it'll be The Miz who dethrones Gunther, freeing the Imperium leader up to win the Men's Rumble and challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 40. If Seth Rollins still holds the gold by that point, he'll need a challenger worthy of such a high-profile spot, and Gunther would easily fit the bill next year. We mentioned that Becky Lynch and Xia Li were pulled from this week's Battle Royal, and it was Zoey Stark who got the win in another high-profile showcase for the former NXT Women's Tag Champion. Stark outlasted everyone to last eliminate Shayna Baszler, and the match also saw Nikki Cross continue to stare blankly even when she was getting eliminated. While Stark does have a history as a tag wrestler, it's been reported that WWE want to establish her as a singles superstar, and that's been the plan since ending her alliance with Trish Stratus. Fans expecting a title change when Stark faces Ripley at Survivor Series should prepare to be disappointed, as it's not believed that Rhea will be ending her title reign in a few weeks' time. Instead, this feud will help build towards the anticipated Ripley vs. Becky Lynch feud, as the man has called out Mommy for not being a fighting champion, and the pair have bumped into each other in the past. If not for Lynch's injury, it's possible she'd be the one challenging for the Women's World Championship at Survivor Series, but even if she's going to lose, Zoey Stark has a golden opportunity to showcase her skills this month in Chicago. For Drew McIntyre, this week's Raw was not how he planned on things going, as he intended to walk into the show as the triumphant new World Heavyweight Champion. Instead, McIntyre arrived at Raw empty-handed and was despondent and not his usual self during the 3-hour show. When McIntyre arrived, he was interviewed about where his head's at given the loss at Crown Jewel, and it was clear that the Scottish Warrior was furious with the result. The irate McIntyre just turned around and walked away from the show, and as he drove away in his car, questions remain as to what's next for him. The commentary team wondered what's to come for Drew, and given that they are not sure about what's next, it seems his future is uncertain. Many are expecting a heel turn, but that hasn't fully happened just yet, so who knows what's to come for the former world champion, who's still yet to have his title win in front of a crowd. More from Raw as Finn Balor and Damian Priest were in action this week, and the undisputed WWE Tag Champions defeated one of the greatest teams in WWE history. After a backstage confrontation last week, the Judgement Day met the New Day on this week's Raw, and it was the faces who took control at the start by isolating Balor. When Xavier Woods went to hit a diving elbow on Balor, it wasn't meant to be, as Priest made the save before driving Kofi Kingston into the announce table to take him out. In the closing stages of the match, Woods tried to rally 2-on-1 but to no avail, and a combo of Priest's South of Heaven and Balor's coup de grace finished the New Day off. It was odd, however, that no other Judgment Day members were ringside, as it would have made sense for JD McDonough to aid Priest to try and win Senior Money in the Bank over. In the end, it was Balor and Priest who got the win, and we'll have to see who can step up to the duo after dispatching one of the best ever teams. A week after their Raw debut victory over Alpha Academy, the Creed brothers faced DIY this week, and the match was a collision of power versus experience. The two sides didn't wait to slowly feel each other out, but instead got right into the action, with great double team offense by both sides that did not go unnoticed. Both teams are also babyfaces, so they made sure to keep things clean and respectful during the match, but that didn't stop the result from being influenced by outside interference. While Tommaso Ciampa saved Johnny Gargano from taking the Brutus Ball, Ludwig Kaiser would interfere and cost DIY the match, giving the Creeds their second win on Raw. The result helped protect DIY and further their feud with Imperium, while giving the new young tag team another big win, a surefire sign that the Creeds are to be taken seriously on Monday nights. In a video package, the Creeds and Ivy Nile were shown signing Raw contracts, confirming that their days in NXT are done, and fans can look forward to seeing the trio on the main roster. Shinsuke Nakamura continued to be a presence on Raw despite his loss at Fastlane, this time by defeating Akira Tozawa. This match was actually the first time that Nakamura has faced a fellow Japanese superstar one-on-one in WWE, and it was a Kinshasa that scored the win for the King of Strong Style. So that was this week's Raw, which was given the task of dealing with the Crown Jewel fallout and setting up Survivor Series, and it managed to do both relatively well. The four-way, Creeds vs. DIY, and New Day vs. Judgment Day all shined in different ways, but the main event between Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn was the main event. The Women's Battle Royal had some interesting moments, including the in-ring return of Tegan Nox, who has now been medically cleared to compete again. Xia Li taking out Becky Lynch sets them on a collision course, while Zoey Stark's win gives Rhea Ripley a fresh challenge, and while Raw had some flaws, the good outweighed the bad this week. It was just a few days ago that WWE brought back Kairi Sane, but with the company always on the hunt for new talent, another Japanese wrestler is now in their sights. In recent years, Giulia has made a name for herself in Japan and is the reigning New Japan Strong Women's Champion, but PW Insider reports that WWE wants to make her a superstar. Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp later added that WWE's interest in Giulia is genuine, with one source in the company calling her a priority acquisition, as WWE are apprehensive that AEW might sign her. In addition to her Strong Women's title, Giulia and her Donna Del Mondo allies are the reigning Artist of Stardom champions, the all-female promotion's 6-woman tag team gold. Giulia made her debut in 2017 as part of the Ice Ribbon promotion after being trained by Mio Shirai, the sister of women's champion Io Sky, and joined Stardom just 2 years later. Since then, Giulia has become a pivotal part of Stardom and has held the World of Stardom Championship, the Wonder of Stardom title, and the Goddess of Stardom Championship. More recently, Giulia has been participating in the Goddess of Stardom Tag League with Thekla, and in addition to her impressive in-ring skills, she possesses exceptional charisma and has a presence. It's no wonder why WWE sees Giulia as a sought-after acquisition, and losing her would be a major setback for Stardom, but one that could very much happen if WWE has its way. In the days prior to SummerSlam, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman were interviewed by ESPN, and Heyman touted his own skills as a manager of champions. When compared to Bobby Heenan, Heyman said, "Screw him, he's dead," in a rude line from the heel manager, but one that Ric Flair thinks went too far. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Flair said the line was stupid and chastised Heyman for his comment about somebody who is the greatest of all time, according to the Nature Boy. Given Heenan's ability to rile up fans, we wonder what he would have made to Heyman's line if he were still with us, but Ric Flair clearly feels that the line went past being funny and was just wrong. On last week's Dynamite, the Mogul Embassy captured the ROH World 6-Man Tag Team Championships from the Elite, and fans can expect to see much more from the group. While Brian Cage was already All Elite, Khan and Toa Liona have now been added to AEW's roster page, so don't be surprised if the champs are regulars on AEW TV from here on. It was earlier this year that Zoey parted ways with WWE, and despite feeling like she was wasting the best years of her career on the sidelines, she did not regret joining NXT. Recently, it was reported that WWE wanted Zoey back and were planning on pursuing her, and while the ex-NXT star will compete in the US again, it won't be for WWE. Zoey, who competed as Sarray in NXT, has signed a multi-year deal with the US-based Japanese female promotion Sukoban, which was launched very recently. Zoey will debut for the promotion next month at Sukoban's second event in Miami, Florida, and it goes to show that WWE doesn't always get its way. It was during last week's AEW Collision that Jake Roberts added new allies to his faction, which commentary referred to as an army being built by the WWE Hall of Famer. Alongside Lance Archer, The Righteous, aka Vincent and Dutch, are now working under Jake's management, and he's doing much more than what we're seeing on screen. Fightful Select reports that in addition to his character work for AEW, Roberts is also scheduled for some community events, which will see AEW help out others and build connections. Roberts has 3 people in his army, but could have more soon, and how do you feel to Jake being a regular presence on AEW TV? Let us know in the comments. In the past, we've seen several AEW sponsorships, from Shark Week to Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, and now the promotion is gearing up for another joint effort. This new tie-in will see AEW team up with Sega, Fightful Select has learned, which will come as good news for Kenny Omega. Omega is a known avid gamer and helped create AEW Fight Forever, and this tie-in with Sega will affect the cleaner especially, as Fightful reports. As mentioned, there's a significant sponsorship involvement planned for the Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, Paul White, and Kota Ibushi tag team match. We're told that content was filmed to promote it. We've learned that it is with Sega. We don't know what content has been filmed, but we'll see it on the November 15th Dynamite. And don't be surprised if an all-blue Omega is running around collecting gold rings soon enough. When Adam Copeland debuted for AEW, he did so under his real name, as the Edge moniker is owned by WWE, but now the Hall of Famer has taken his own step to distance himself from the company. On Twitter, Copeland changed his handle from Edge Rated R to Rated R Cope, and with his previous moniker free, we imagine it'll be snatched up soon if it hasn't been already. Each week, Kevin Kelly calls the action on AEW Collision, but some fans feel that the veteran broadcaster is seriously struggling in the role. Speaking on AEW Unrestricted recently, Kelly spoke about working on AEW's Saturday show, and while it's been fun, it hasn't been easy. As he explained, "It's been fun, exciting, and thrilling, and very stressful all at once. I can't assume that anybody knows anybody, so I have to tell everybody's story like they're seeing and hearing them for the first time. I've not done live television in 20 years. I don't have that time in AEW. That's been the biggest adjustment for me. Everything is happening so fast and the moment's gone. And then it's like, I think of it later, but it's too late." Prior to AEW, Kevin Kelly made his name with Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and is perhaps best known to Attitude Era fans for his time as an interviewer and commentator for WWE. Now Kelly is All Elite, but is finding the transition to live programming a daunting one, and we'll have to see how he fares in this high-profile role on Collision. Back in 2019, it was announced that a biopic on the life and career of Hulk Hogan was announced, one that would see Chris Hemsworth play the wrestling icon. With few updates though, many were left wondering about the biopic, and in June of this year, Chris Hemsworth said that he did not know what was happening with the project. More recently, Hogan himself said it looks like the project isn't happening as initially planned, but while this project is seemingly dead, we may be seeing Hogan in a biopic after all. CastingNetworks.com recently made a post on its website searching for a Hulk Hogan photo double for a film titled Huracan Rana, which will be based on the late model Anna Nicole Smith. The perfect Hogan for the role will be a male between the ages of 39 to 52, with attributes similar to the Hulkster, and anyone who has doubled as him in the past is encouraged to mention it. Smith, a Playboy model, actress, and more, died age 39 of an accidental drug overdose, and while the Hogan biopic may be finished, we could be seeing the iconic red and yellow in a different project.